Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the main window of New Geneva Station's command center. She watched as two massive alien warships slowly moved past each other in the darkness of space. One ship was painted in the blue and silver colors of the Zephyrian Empire. The other showed the red and gold markings of the Kethvar Confederacy. Both ships had enough weapons to destroy planets. But here, in neutral human space, they passed by like ghosts in the night. Elena had been running this station for 7 years. In that time, she had seen these two alien races fight their endless war across the galaxy. The war had been going on for over 100 years. Her grandfather used to tell stories about when it first started. Back then, humans were just beginning to explore space. Now, humans had built dozens of stations like this one. Places where the war stopped. Places where beings could live in peace. "Captain, we have another refugee ship requesting permission to dock." The voice belonged to Lieutenant Marcus Kim, her communications officer. He was young but smart. Elena had trained him herself. "What species?" Elena asked. She turned away from the window and walked to her command chair. The chair was simple, but comfortable. Everything on the station was built to last. Humans were good at building things that worked. "Mixed group, Captain. Mostly Kethvar families, but some Zephyrians too. About 200 people total. They say they're fleeing the fighting in the Proxima system." Elena nodded. This was normal. Every week, more refugees arrived. Families who had lost their homes. To the war. Soldiers who were tired of fighting. Scientists who wanted to work in peace. New Geneva Station welcomed them all. "Give them docking bay 7. Send Dr. Chun to check them over. And make sure security knows they're coming." "Yes, Captain." Elena sat down and looked at the screens around her chair. Each screen showed different parts of the station. She could see the docking bays where ships came and went. She could see the living areas where thousands of beings made their homes. She could see the medical center where Dr. James Chun worked day and night to heal the wounded. New Geneva Station was huge. It took Elena 20 minutes to walk from one end to the other. The station had room for 50,000 people. Right. Now, about 30,000 beings lived here. Most were refugees from the war. But there were also traders, diplomats, and even some tourists who came to see the famous neutral station. The station made money by charging docking fees and selling supplies to ships. Both sides in the war needed fuel, food, and medical supplies. Human traders were happy to sell to anyone who paid. This made some people angry. They said humans should pick a side in the war. But Elena's government back on Earth had made the rules clear. Humans would stay neutral. They would help anyone who needed help. "Captain, Ambassador Kretak is here to see you." Lieutenant Kim's voice came through the speakers again. Elena sighed. Kretak was the Zephyrian ambassador to the station. He was tall and thin, with blue skin and large eyes. Like all Zephyrians, he spoke in a very formal way. He also complained a lot. "Send him in." The door to the command center opened with a soft hiss. Ambassador Kretak walked in, followed by 2 Zephyrian guards. The guards wore heavy armor and carried energy weapons. Elena had told Kretak many times that weapons were not needed on the station, but he never listened. "Captain Vasquez," Kretak said. He made a small bow. "I must speak with you about a serious matter." "What can I do for you, Ambassador?" "We have received reports that Kethvar military officers are hiding among the refugees in Sector 4. This is not acceptable. Your station is supposed to be neutral, not a safe place for enemy soldiers." Elena had heard this complaint before. Both sides always thought the other side was cheating. Usually, they were both wrong. "Ambassador, we check all refugees when they arrive. Anyone who wants to stay here must give up their weapons and promise." to follow our rules. If you have proof that someone is breaking these rules, please show me. Kretak's large eyes seemed to grow even larger. Proof? Captain, my government does not need to provide proof to humans. We are telling you that enemy soldiers are on your station. You must find them and remove them. Elena stood up slowly. She was much shorter than the Zephyrian, but she was not afraid of him. Ambassador, this station follows human law. If you want someone arrested, you need to show me evidence. Real evidence, not just suspicions. The two guards moved closer to their ambassador. Elena's hand moved toward the alarm button on her chair. If she pressed it, security teams would arrive in seconds. The station had good security. Commander Sarah Walsh made sure of that. You humans think you are so clever, Kretak said. His voice was getting louder. You stay neutral and make money from our war, but neutrality is just another word for cowardice. That's enough, Elena said. Her voice was calm but firm. You are welcome on this station as long as you follow our rules. But if you keep insulting my people, I will ask you to leave. Kretak stared at her for a long moment. Then he made another small bow. Of course, Captain. I apologize for my harsh words. The war makes us all say things we do not mean. After the Zephyrians left, Elena sat back down. She felt tired. Dealing with the two alien races was like watching children fight. They had been fighting for so long that they had forgotten why the war started. They just knew they hated each other. Captain, Prime Negotiator Vashti is requesting a meeting. Lieutenant Kim was back on the speakers. Elena smiled a little. Vashti was the Kethver representative on the station. Unlike Kretak, she was usually polite and reasonable. The Kethvar were shorter than humans, with gray skin and small, pointed ears. They were also much more practical than the Zephyrians. Tell her I'll meet her in conference room 3 in 10 minutes. Elena left the command center and walked through the station's main corridor. The corridor was wide and well lit. Beings of different species walked past her. She saw human children playing with young Zephyrians in Kethvar. She saw traders from a dozen different worlds selling their goods at small shops. She saw couples from different species holding hands as they walked. This was why the station mattered. Not just because it made money or kept humans safe, but because it showed that different species could live together in peace. The war seemed very far away when you saw families laughing together. Conference room 3 was small and quiet. Vashti was already waiting when Elena arrived. The Kethver negotiator was reading something on a small computer tablet. Captain Vasquez, thank you for meeting with me on such short notice. No problem, Vashti. What's on your mind? I'm afraid I have some troubling news. Our intelligence sources tell us that the Zephyrians are planning something big, a major attack somewhere in this sector. We're not sure what their target is, but we thought you should know. Elena sat down across from the Kethver. How reliable is this information? Very reliable. We have people inside their military command. The attack will happen soon. Maybe in the next few days. Any idea what they're planning to attack? Vashti shook her head. That's what worries us. There are no major Kethver military targets in this area. The only important thing here is your station. Elena felt a cold feeling in her stomach. You think they might attack New Geneva? I hope not. But Captain, you should prepare for anything. The Zephyrians have become very aggressive lately. They are losing the war, and desperate people do desperate things. After Vashti left, Elena walked back to the command center. She thought about what the Kethver had told her. New Geneva Station was protected by law. All the major powers had signed treaties saying that neutral stations could not be attacked. But laws were just words on paper. If someone wanted to break them badly enough, They would. Elena looked out the window again. More ships were arriving. Traders, refugees, diplomats. All of them trusted that the station would keep them safe. Elena had promised to protect them. She would not let them down. But as she watched the ships dock, Elena could not shake the feeling that something bad was coming. The war had stayed away from her station for 7 years. Maybe that was about to change. 3 days after her meeting with Vashti, Elena was in the medical center visiting wounded refugees. Dr. James Chun was showing her the new patients who had arrived that morning. Most were Kethver civilians who had escaped from a battle in the Rigel system. Some had burns from energy weapons. Others had broken bones from falling buildings. "How are they doing, James?" Elena asked as she watched a human nurse help a young Kethver child drink some water. "They'll be fine," Dr. Chun said. He was a small man with kind eyes and gentle hands. "The physical injuries will heal. But the fear in their eyes, that takes longer to fix." Elena nodded. She had seen that look before. It was the look of people who had lost everything and didn't know if they would ever feel safe again. That's why the station existed, to give people a place where they could heal. "Captain Vasquez, please report to the command center immediately." The voice came from the speakers in the ceiling. It was Commander Sarah Walsh, the head of station security. She sounded worried. Elena left the medical center and walked quickly through the corridors. Other people on the station seemed nervous too. She could see it in their faces. Something was wrong. When Elena reached the command center, she found it full of activity. Officers were talking quickly into their communication devices. Warning lights flashed on several screens. Commander Walsh was standing next to the main display, watching something that made her frown. "What's the situation, Sarah?" Elena asked. "We have a problem, Captain. A big Zephyrian fleet just jumped into our space. 12 warships, including a dreadnought. They're not following normal approach procedures." Elena looked at the main screen. She could see the Zephyrian ships arranged in battle formation. The largest ship was massive, almost as big as the station itself. It was painted in the dark blue colors that meant it belonged to the Zephyrian military's elite forces. "Have they responded to our communications?" "Yes, Captain. They say they're here for an emergency security inspection. They want to dock and search the entire station." Elena felt anger growing in her chest. "They want to what?" "Search the station. They claim we're hiding Kethver military equipment and personnel." "That's crazy. They know our neutrality agreements. They can't just come here and demand to search us." Lieutenant Kim looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm getting a direct communication request from the Zephyrian fleet commander. He says he wants to speak with you personally." "Put him through." The main screen changed to show the bridge of the Zephyrian dreadnought. A large Zephyrian in military uniform stared out at Elena. His skin was darker blue than most of his species, and his eyes were cold and hard. Several medals decorated his chest. "I am General Thakmer of the Zephyrian Third Fleet," the alien said. His voice was deep and commanding. "You will prepare your station for immediate inspection." "General, this is Captain Elena Vasquez. New Geneva Station is neutral territory under interstellar law. You have no authority to conduct inspections." "Here, neutral territory?" General Thakmer laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Captain, we have evidence that your station is being used as a base for Kethver military operations. Neutrality does not protect those who aid our enemies." "That's not true, and you know it. All refugees are checked when they arrive. No one is allowed to keep weapons or conduct military activities here." "Words, Captain. Just words. We will see the truth for ourselves." Elena felt her hands making fists. "General, I'm ordering you to respect our neutral status and withdraw your ships to the normal security perimeter." General Thakmer's expression became even colder. You order me? Captain, you seem to forget that humans are a minor species. Your little station exists only because we allow it. Do not mistake our tolerance for weakness. The communication ended. Elena stared at the blank screen for a moment. She had dealt with difficult aliens before, but never one so openly hostile. Captain, what are your orders? Commander Walsh asked. Signal all department heads to meet in conference room 1 in 5 minutes, and get me a direct line to Earth Command. Yes, Captain. Elena walked to the conference room, her mind racing. She had always known this day might come. Both alien races had become more desperate as their war dragged on. Someone was bound to try to drag humans into the conflict eventually. The department heads arrived quickly. Dr. Chon looked worried. Chief Engineer Rodriguez seemed angry. Communications. Officer Kim appeared confused. Commander Walsh looked ready for a fight. Here's the situation, Elena began. General Thakmer wants to search the station. He claims we're hiding Keffer military assets. I've refused, but he doesn't seem inclined to accept that answer. What can he actually do? Dr. Chon asked. I mean, legally? Legally, nothing. Elena replied. But laws only work when people choose to follow them. If he decides to board us by force, we can't stop him. His ships outgun us by about 1,000 to 1. Chief Rodriguez spoke up. Captain, maybe we should let them search. If they don't find anything, they'll have to leave us alone. No, Commander Walsh said firmly. If we give in now, both sides will think they can push us around whenever they want. Today, it's the Zephyrians. Tomorrow, it'll be the Keffer. Our neutrality means nothing if we don't defend it. Elena was about to respond when alarm started, ringing throughout the station. Lieutenant Kim's voice came over the speakers. All senior staff to the command center immediately. We have multiple ships approaching at high speed. Everyone ran back to the command center. The main screen now showed a second fleet of ships approaching the station. These ships had the red and gold colors of the Keffer Confederacy. Captain, Lieutenant Kim said, the Keffer fleet is requesting permission to defend the station from Zephyrian aggression. Elena closed her eyes for a moment. This was her worst nightmare. 2 enemy fleets facing each other in her space, with thousands of innocent people caught in the middle. Open a channel to both fleets, she ordered. The screen split to show General Thakmer on one side and a Keffer admiral on the other. A Keffer was a female with gray skin and intelligent eyes. This is Captain Vasquez. I'm ordering both. Fleets to withdraw immediately. New Geneva Station is neutral territory. Your conflict has no place here. The Keffer admiral spoke first. Captain, we cannot allow the Zephyrians to violate neutral space. We are here to protect you. We need no protection from Keffer lies, General Thakmer said. Captain, you have exactly 1 hour to prepare for our inspection. After that, we will board your station with or without your permission. General, there are 30,000 innocent people on this station. Civilians, refugees, children. You cannot threaten them. Then you should have thought of that before you chose to harbor our enemies. Elena felt something cold settle in her stomach. General, are you threatening to attack civilian targets? I am threatening to do whatever is necessary to protect Zephyrian interests. 1 hour, Captain. Both communications ended. Elena stood in the middle of the command center, surrounded by her officers. Everyone was looking at her, waiting for orders. Captain, Commander Walsh said quietly, what do? We do? Elena looked around the room. These people trusted her to protect them and everyone else on the station. She had always believed that neutrality and diplomacy could solve any problem. But some people didn't want solutions. They only wanted war. We do our job, Elena said. Finally, we protect the innocent people on this station. Signal all ships in the area to evacuate if possible. Get our emergency teams ready and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them what's happening here. What about the refugees in Sector 4? Dr. Chan asked. We just brought in 200 more people yesterday. Some of them are still in medical care. We protect them, Elena said. All of them. That's what we're here for. The next 45 minutes felt like the longest of Elena's life. She watched both fleets position themselves around the station. She listened to reports from her staff about evacuation procedures and emergency preparations. She tried to contact other neutral stations for help, but they were too far away. Most of all, she watched the refugees. Families gathered in the community areas, holding their children close. Medical patients were moved to interior rooms away from the station's outer hull. Everyone was scared, but they tried to stay calm. They trusted the humans to keep them safe. Elena was reviewing emergency protocols when the first energy blast lit up space outside the command center windows. But it wasn't aimed at the station. The Zephyrian and Kethver fleets had started shooting at each other. Captain, Lieutenant Kim called out, General Thekme is signaling us again. The screen showed the Zephyrian general's face. Behind him, Helena could see his bridge crew working frantically as their ship fired at the Kethver fleet. Captain Vasquez, this is your final warning. Order the Kethver ships to withdraw, or we will consider your station a legitimate military target. General, this is insane. You're talking about attacking civilians. I'm talking about ending this war by any means necessary. You have 30 seconds to decide whose side you're really on. Elena realized with horrible clarity that General Thekmer had never intended to just search the station. He had come here to force humans to choose sides in the war, and he was willing to kill innocent people to make his point. I won't let you hurt these people, Elena said. The missile tore through the outer hull of Sector 4 like it was made of paper. Elena felt the station shake beneath her feet as emergency alarms screamed throughout New Geneva. The lights flickered and went out for several seconds before the backup power kicked in. Damage report? Elena shouted over the noise. Commander Walsh was already at her station, reading data from sensors throughout the facility. Direct hit on refugee housing Block 7. We've lost hull integrity on 3 levels. Emergency bulkheads are sealing. But ... She stopped talking and stared at her screen. But what, Sarah? Captain, we have massive casualties. The missile hit the family housing area. There were children in there. Elena felt something break inside her chest. She had sworn to protect everyone on this station. She had promised them safety. And now families were dead because an alien general wanted to make a point about neutrality. Get all medical teams to Sector 4 immediately, Elena ordered. I want every doctor, nurse, and medic we have working to save lives. Captain, Lieutenant Kim called from his station. General Thekmer is signaling us again. Elena looked at the main screen. General Thekmer appeared, and Elena could see he was not sorry for what he had done. If anything, he looked satisfied. I hope you understand now, Captain, the Zephyrian said. This is what happens when you choose to help our enemies. Surrender your station for inspection, and there will be no more deaths. Elena stared at him for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was very quiet and very cold. General, you just murdered innocent children. I eliminated enemy assets. The Kethver were using your refugees as human shields for their military operations. That's a lie, and you know it. Is it? Captain, neutrality is a luxury that only the strong can afford. You humans think you can stay out of our war and make money from both sides. But every war comes to those who think they can hide from it. The communication ended. Elena stood in the middle of her command center, surrounded by chaos. Her officers were coordinating rescue efforts and trying to keep the station functioning. Outside the windows, she could see the Zephyrian fleet still firing at the Kethvar. Ships. Captain. Dr. Chun's voice came over the intercom from the medical center. I need to talk to you. Now. Elena left Commander Walsh in charge of the bridge and walked quickly through the station corridors. The hallways were full of people, moving toward emergency shelters. She saw fear in every face she passed. These people had come to the station to escape the war. Now the war had found them anyway. The medical center was chaos. Every bed was full. Doctors and nurses ran between patients, trying to save as many lives as possible. Elena saw humans working next to Kethvar medics, and even a few Zephyrian doctors who lived on the station. The war meant nothing here. Only saving lives mattered. Dr. Chun met her at the entrance to the emergency ward. His medical coat was covered in blood, and his hands were shaking. Elena, it's bad. Really bad. The missile hit the children's play area directly. We've lost over 200 people already, and more are dying every minute. Elena felt sick. How many children? 43 confirmed dead, maybe more. Elena, some of them were human children. Kids who were born here on the station. Elena closed her eyes. Human children. Killed by an alien who thought neutrality was weakness. There's something else, Dr. Chun continued. I've been treating refugees from both sides for years. I know their biology, their weak points, their medical needs. Elena, if this information fell into the wrong hands. Elena understood immediately. Dr. Chun had detailed medical knowledge about both alien species. Information that could be used to create weapons designed specifically to kill Zephyrians or Kethvar. James, are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying that if someone wanted to hurt these species, I could tell them exactly how to do it. I've been healing them for so long that I know everything about how their bodies work. Elena stared at her chief medical officer. Dr. Chun was the gentlest person she knew. He had dedicated his life to saving everyone who came to his medical center, but now she could see something new in his eyes. Something cold and angry. Elena, they killed children. Human children. They came to our neutral station and murdered babies in their beds. Before Elena could respond, her communication device beeped. It was Commander Walsh calling from the bridge. Captain, you need to get back here immediately. We're receiving a priority message from Earth. Elena ran back to the command center. When she arrived, she found the main screen showing the seal of the Terra Federation Council. This was the governing body for all human space. They only used priority channels for the most important messages. Put it through, Elena ordered. The screen changed to show President Sarah Morrison, the elected leader of all humanity. Elena had never seen the president look so serious. This is President Morrison speaking to all Terra Federation citizens and allies. 2 hours ago, the Zephyrian Empire committed an act of terrorism against New Geneva Station, a neutral facility under human protection. This attack resulted in the deaths of over 300 innocent civilians, including 43 human children. Elena felt her heart beating faster. The president was speaking to everyone in human space. This was not just a local incident anymore. For over 100 years, humanity has maintained strict neutrality in the conflict between the Zephyrian Empire and the Kethvar Confederacy. We have provided aid to both sides. We have offered our stations as neutral ground for peace talks. We have treated the wounded from both armies in our hospitals. The president paused and looked directly into the camera. Elena could see the anger in her eyes, but neutrality has limits. When someone deliberately targets innocent civilians, when someone murders children to make a political point, they cross a line that cannot be uncrossed. The Zephyrian Empire has declared war on humanity by their actions today. Elena heard gasps from around the command center. Humanity was going to war. I am therefore announcing the following actions, effective immediately. First, all Zephyrian. Military vessels are ordered to leave human space within 24 hours. Second, all trade agreements with the Zephyrian Empire are suspended. Third, I am recalling Admiral Marcus Torres from retirement to take command of our military response. Elena knew that name. Everyone in human space knew Admiral Torres. He had won the Centauri Rebellion against the pirates 20 years ago. He was the best military commander humanity had ever produced. To the Kethfer Confederacy, we offer our continued neutrality as long as you respect our sovereignty and the safety of civilian populations. To the Zephyrian Empire, we offer this warning. You have awakened something you do not understand. Humanity is done watching from the sidelines. The transmission ended. Elena looked around the command center. Her officers were staring at the blank screen with expressions of shock and determination. Captain, Lieutenant Kim said quietly, I'm receiving messages from all over human space. Shipyards are retooling for military production. The merchant. Marine is volunteering for military service. Captain, every human colony is asking how they can help. Elena nodded. She understood what was happening. For the first time in their history, as a spacefaring species, humanity was united in anger. The Zephyrians had not just attacked a station. They had attacked the idea that innocent people could be safe anywhere in the galaxy. Captain, Commander Walsh reported, I'm getting readings from long-range sensors. The Zephyrian fleet is pulling back. But they're not leaving the system. Elena looked at the tactical display. General Fekmer's ships were moving away from the station, but they were still close enough to attack again if they wanted to. Signal the Kethfor fleet, Elena ordered. Tell them we appreciate their offer to help defend the station, but this is now a human matter. Yes, Captain. Elena walked back to the window that looked out into space. In the distance, she could see the lights of approaching ships. But these were not alien vessels. These were human ships, responding to the call for help. Cargo ships, passenger liners, even some old military vessels that had been retired years ago. All of them coming to protect New Geneva Station. Dr. Chun's voice came over the intercom again. Captain, I need to tell you something else. I've been thinking about what you said earlier, about my medical knowledge. What about it, James? Elena, I know how to hurt them, both species. I know their weak points, their biology, everything. And I'm not the only one. Every human doctor who has treated alien patients knows the same things. We've been healing them for decades. Elena understood. Humanity had not just been neutral observers for the past century. They had been learning. Every alien patient treated. In a human hospital, every trade negotiation, every diplomatic meeting had taught humans something new about their alien neighbors. James, are you volunteering to help the military? There was a long pause before Dr. Chun answered. Elena, they killed children. They came to our house and murdered babies. Yes, I'm volunteering. Someone needs to teach them that there are consequences for crossing certain lines. Elena continued staring out the window. More human ships were arriving every hour. Not just military vessels, but ordinary ships crewed by ordinary people who had decided they would not let this attack go unanswered. Captain, Lieutenant Kim called out, I'm receiving a message from... 6 months after the attack on New Geneva Station, the galaxy looked very different. Elena stood on the rebuilt command deck of her station, watching human warships patrol the space around them. The ships were not like anything the aliens had ever seen before. They were smaller than traditional battleships, but they moved faster and worked together in ways that confused enemy commanders. Captain, we're receiving a report from the Geneva Guard, Lieutenant Kim announced. The Geneva Guard was Elena's own fleet of converted civilian ships. What had started as a rescue operation had become something much more dangerous. "Put it through," Galena said. The screen showed Captain Maria Santos, a former cargo ship pilot, who now commanded a fleet of 12 vessels. Her ship had once carried grain between colonies. Now it carried weapons designed specifically to fight Zephyrians. "Captain Vasquez, we've completed our mission at the Arcturus Supply Depot. The Zephyrian base is no longer operational." Elena nodded. The Arcturus Depot had been supplying General Thagmer's fleet for months. Without it, his ships would have to travel much farther to get fuel and ammunition. "Any civilian casualties, Maria?" "None, Captain. We followed the protocols exactly. All non-military personnel were evacuated before we destroyed the facility. We even left medical supplies for the Zephyrian wounded. This was how humans fought their war. They did not attack civilians or destroy hospitals. They did not take prisoners and torture them for information. But they were very good at making it impossible for their enemies to continue fighting. Excellent work. Return to base for resupply." After the communication ended, Elena walked to her office. The walls were covered with reports from all over human space. Each report told the same story. Human forces were winning, but not in the way anyone expected. Admiral Torres had been right about humanity's advantages. For over a century, humans had been the galaxy's traders, diplomats, and peacekeepers. They knew where every important facility was located. They understood how supply lines worked. Most importantly, they had friends everywhere. Elena picked up a report from the Vega system. A human medical team had been treating HFY wounded when Zephyrian forces attacked the hospital. The Zephyrians had expected the humans to run away. Instead, Dr. Chun's new medical combat units had used their knowledge of Zephyrian biology to deploy non-lethal weapons that left the attackers unconscious but alive. The HFY had been so impressed that they offered to share military intelligence with the humans. Another report came from the Rigel sector. Zephyrian ships had tried to blockade a trade route that supplied both sides of the war. Human merchants had simply found new routes and shared them with everyone except the Zephyrians. Within weeks, the Zephyrian blockade was useless, and their ships were stranded without supplies. Elena's communication device beeped. It was Commander Walsh calling from the security center. "Captain, we've got visitors. A Zephyrian diplomatic ship is requesting permission to dock. They say they want to discuss terms." Elena felt surprised. General Thagmer had never shown any interest in talking before. "Are they alone?" "Yes, Captain. One small ship with a diplomatic flag. Should I let them dock?" Elena thought for a moment. "Yes, but with full security protocols. And Sarah, make sure they see our new defenses." 20 minutes later, Elena was sitting in the main conference room waiting for her visitors. The room had been rebuilt after the attack, but she had made some changes. The walls now displayed images of the children who had died in the missile strike. She wanted to make sure no one forgot why this war had started. The door opened, and Commander Walsh escorted 3 Zephyrians into the room. Elena recognized one of them immediately. It was Ambassador Kretak, who had complained about HFY refugees months ago. The other 2 were military officers she did not know. "Captain Vasquez," Kretak said with his usual formal bow. "Thank you for agreeing to see us, Ambassador. I have to say, I'm surprised to see you here. Last time we met, you called humans cowards." Kretak's large eyes looked uncomfortable. "Captain, the situation has changed significantly since our last meeting. My government has sent me to discuss possible terms for ending hostilities." Elena leaned back in her chair. "Terms? Ambassador, your General Thagmer murdered children on this station. What terms could possibly matter after that?" One of the military officers, a colonel judging by his uniform, spoke up. "Captain, General Fakemir is no longer in command of Zephyrian forces in this sector. He has been reassigned. Elena understood. General Fakemir had probably been removed from command because his war against humanity was not going well. I see. And who is in command now? I am, the colonel said. Colonel Vriktar. Captain, I want to be honest with you. Your species fights in ways we do not understand. You attack our supply lines, but you do not destroy our cities. You capture our soldiers, but you do not execute them. You treat our wounded, but you make it impossible for us to continue fighting. Elena nodded. Colonel, we fight to end wars, not to create more suffering. But that is exactly the problem, Colonel Vriktar continued. In normal warfare, when one side becomes too weak to continue, they surrender. But your tactics make it impossible for us to fight effectively, while also making surrender seem unnecessary. You are not trying to destroy us, so our leaders believe they can still win. Ambassador Kretak leaned forward. Captain, what my military colleague is trying to say is that your mercy is making this war longer than it needs to be. Some of our leaders think that if humans are not willing to destroy us completely, then we are not truly defeated. Elena felt a cold anger growing in her chest. Are you saying we should be more brutal in order to end the war faster? No, Captain, Colonel Vriktar said quickly. I am saying that some Zephyrians believe your restraint is a sign of weakness. They think you do not have the will to do what is necessary to win a real war. Elena stood up and walked to the wall display showing pictures of the dead children. Colonel, let me explain something about humans. We do not enjoy war. We do not celebrate the death of our enemies. But when someone crosses certain lines, we become very good at making them regret it. She turned back to face the Zephyrians. Your General Fakemir thought he could force us to choose sides in your war by murdering innocent people. He succeeded in making us choose a side, but it was not his side or the Kethfer side. We chose our own side. Elena walked back to her seat. Colonel, in the past 6 months, how many Zephyrian military bases have been destroyed? Colonel Vriktar looked uncomfortable. 17 major installations, plus dozens of smaller facilities. And how many Zephyrian civilians have been harmed by human forces? None that we can confirm. How many Zephyrian prisoners have been executed or tortured? None. Elena nodded. Colonel, you are right that we fight differently than you do. We do not wage war against populations or infrastructure. We wage war against the ability to make war. Every supply depot we destroy, every communication center we capture, every supply line we cut makes it harder for your military to function. Ambassador Kretak spoke up. But Captain, if you are not trying to destroy us, what do you want? Elena looked at the pictures on the wall again. We want justice for the people who died here. We want assurance that no one will ever again think they can murder human civilians without consequences. And we want a galaxy where neutral stations like this one can exist without fear. What would such assurance look like? Colonel Vriktar asked. General Fakemir will be turned over to human authorities for trial. The Zephyrian Empire will pay reparations for the damage done to this station and compensation to the families of those killed. And your government will sign a binding agreement recognizing the neutrality of all human facilities. The 3 Zephyrians looked at each other. Elena could see they had not expected such specific demands. Captain, Ambassador Kretak said slowly, you are asking us to hand over a Zephyrian general to be tried by aliens. No Zephyrian government could agree to such a thing. Elena sat back down. Ambassador, then there is nothing more to discuss. This war will continue until your government understands that actions have consequences. Colonel Vriktar leaned forward. Captain, may I ask you a personal question? Go ahead. Before this war started, did you hate Zephyrians? Elena thought for a moment. No, Colonel, I did not hate anyone. I spent my career trying to help refugees from both sides of your war. I wanted peace for everyone. And now? Elena looked at the pictures of the dead children one more time. Now I understand that some people mistake kindness for weakness. They think that because humans prefer peace, we are not capable of effective violence. General Thekmer made that mistake. She turned back to the colonel. I do not hate your species, Colonel, but I will never again trust anyone who thinks murdering children is an acceptable military tactic. And I will make sure that the galaxy remembers what happens when someone tries it. The meeting ended without any agreement. Elena watched the Zephyrian ship leave, knowing that the war would continue. But she also knew that it would not last much longer. Human forces were systematically dismantling the Zephyrian militaries' ability to function. Soon, General Thekmer's government would have no choice but to accept human terms. That evening, Elena received a call from Admiral Torres, the old soldier. 18 months after the attack on New Geneva Station, Elena stood in the same conference room where she had once met with Zephyrian negotiators. But this time, the room was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. The walls still displayed pictures of the children who had died, but now they served a different purpose. They reminded everyone present of why they were here. The Terra Federation calls this session to order, Elena announced. She had been chosen to lead the peace talks, not because she was a diplomat, but because she represented what the war had been about. The right of innocent people to live without fear. Around the table sat the most powerful beings in known space. Admiral Torres represented human military forces. Prime Negotiator Vashti spoke for the Kethver Confederacy. Even some of the smaller alien species had sent representatives. Everyone wanted to be part of creating the new rules that would govern the galaxy. The only empty chair belonged to the Zephyrian delegation. They were late, which was not surprising. The Zephyrian Empire had been trying to avoid this moment for months. Captain, Lieutenant Kim's voice came through Elena's earpiece. The Zephyrian ship is requesting permission to dock. They have General Thekmer with them. Elena felt a cold satisfaction. Permission granted. Full security escort to the conference room. 10 minutes later, the doors opened and 6 Zephyrians entered. Elena recognized Ambassador Kretek and Colonel Vrigtar from their previous meeting. But the figure that drew everyone's attention was the Zephyrian in restraints, walking between 2 human guards. General Thumwer looked older than when Elena had last seen him on a communication screen. His dark blue skin seemed faded, and his military uniform had been replaced with simple prisoner clothing. But his eyes still held the same cold arrogance that had led him to order the attack on civilian targets. Captain Vasquez, Ambassador, Kretek said with a deep bow, the Zephyrian Empire delivers General Thekmer as agreed in the preliminary negotiations. Elena looked at the alien who had changed her life and the lives of thousands of others. General, do you understand why you are here? General Thekmer lifted his head and stared at Elena with obvious hatred. I understand that I am a prisoner of war, held by a species that does not understand the realities of military conflict. No, General, Elena said quietly. You are here because you ordered the deliberate murder of innocent civilians, including children. You are here because you thought neutrality was weakness and mercy was cowardice. Elena gestured to the pictures on the walls. These children died because you wanted to force humanity to choose sides in your war. You succeeded. We chose our own side. Admiral Torres leaned forward from his seat. General Thekmer, before we proceed with the formal peace negotiations, this tribunal will hear evidence regarding war crimes committed against New Geneva Station. The next 3 hours, witnesses testified about the attack. Dr. Chun described treating the wounded and dying. Commander Walsh explained how the station's defenses had been overwhelmed. Survivors told their stories about losing family members to Thakmer's missile. General Thakmer said nothing during the testimonies. He sat in his chair with the same arrogant expression, as if he was above such proceedings. Finally, Elena stood to address him directly. General, do you have anything to say in your defense? Thakmer looked up at her with contempt. Defense? Captain, I was fighting a war. In war, difficult decisions must be made. If some civilians died, that is unfortunate, but it was necessary to achieve victory. Elena felt anger rising in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. General, you targeted a hospital. You murdered children in their beds. How was that necessary for victory? Because your station was being used to support Kethver military operations. Because your so-called neutrality was helping our enemies. Because someone needed to show humans that they could not hide from the realities of war. Elena stared at him for a long moment. General, you are absolutely right about one thing. You did show humans that we could not hide from the realities of war, but you did not understand what that would mean. She walked to the window that looked out into space. When you attacked this station, humanity had never fought a real war against another spacefaring species. We were traders, diplomats, peacekeepers. You thought that made us weak. Elena turned back to face the assembled delegates. But what you did not understand, General, is that peace requires strength. Neutrality requires power. For over a century, humans built that strength while pretending we were just merchants and mediators. Admiral Torres stood up from his chair. General Thakmer, in the 18 months since your attack, human forces have destroyed or captured 67 Zephyrian military installations. We have disabled over 200 of your warships. We have cut your supply lines and neutralized your strategic advantages. The Admiral paused and looked around the room. And we have done this while suffering fewer than 500 military casualties and causing 0 civilian deaths among your population. Elena could see surprise on the faces of several alien delegates. The numbers were impressive, even by human standards. How is this possible? Asked the representative from the Altarian Republic, a species that had been watching the war with great interest. Admiral Torres smiled slightly. Because humans do not fight to destroy our enemies. We fight to remove their ability to make war. General Thakmer wanted to force us to choose between Zephyrian victory and Kethvar victory. Instead, we chose peace. Prime Negotiator Vashti leaned forward. Admiral, what exactly do you mean by that? Elena answered the question. We mean that this war ends now. Both the Zephyrian Empire and the Kethvar Confederacy will sign binding agreements to respect neutral zones, protect civilian populations, and submit disputes to human arbitration. Ambassador Kretak looked shocked. Captain, you cannot simply declare the war over. Our governments have been fighting for over a century. There are territorial disputes, resource conflicts, cultural differences that cannot be resolved so easily. Ambassador, Elena said, those issues will be resolved through negotiation, not through military action. Any faction that chooses to continue fighting will find themselves at war with humanity. Elena walked back to her chair and sat down. The galaxy has learned something important in the past 18 months. Humans are very good at ending wars. We are also very good at making sure they do not start again. General Thakmer finally spoke again. And what gives humans the right to dictate terms to the rest of the galaxy? Elena looked at him with the same cold expression she had worn since he entered the room. General, you gave us that right when you murdered our children. You declared war on the idea that innocent people deserve protection. Now you will live with the consequences. She stood up again and addressed the entire room. The Terra Federation is establishing the Galactic Peace Enforcement Authority. Human ships will patrol neutral zones and trade routes. Human arbitrators will mediate disputes between species. And human justice will deal with anyone who thinks civilian targets are acceptable military objectives. The Altarian representative raised a concern. Captain, many species will see this as human imperialism. You are essentially declaring yourselves the police force of the galaxy. Alina nodded. You are absolutely right. That is exactly what we are doing. But remember, we did not choose this role. It was forced on us by people who thought our preference. For peace meant we were incapable of effective violence. Admiral Torres addressed the room. The Terra Federation has no interest in conquering territory or ruling other species. We want to trade, explore, and live in peace. But we will no longer tolerate the deliberate targeting of civilians by anyone, anywhere. Alina looked at General Thekmer one more time. General, you will be tried for war crimes against humanity. If convicted, you will be executed according to human law. Your death will serve as a reminder that some lines cannot be crossed. 4. The first time since entering the room, General Thekmer looked uncertain. You would execute me for following military orders? General, Elena said quietly, you were not following orders when you decided to murder children. You were making a choice about what kind of galaxy you wanted to live in. You chose a galaxy where innocence provides no protection and neutrality offers no safety. Elena walked to the wall display and touched one of the pictures showing a young, human girl who had died in the attack. This child was 3 years old, General. She had never hurt anyone. She was not a soldier or a spy or a threat to your empire. She was just a little girl who wanted to play with her friends. Elena turned back to face Thekmer. You killed her to make a point about neutrality. Now humanity will make a point about justice. The peace negotiations continued for 3 more days. In the end, both the Zephyrian Empire and the Kethfor Confederacy signed comprehensive agreements ending their war. Neutral zones were established around all human facilities. Civilian populations received explicit protection under galactic law, and a new system of arbitration was created to resolve disputes without warfare. General Thekmer was found guilty of war crimes and executed by spacing. His body released into the vacuum of space where he had ordered the deaths of innocents. The execution was broadcast throughout known space, carrying a simple message. The age of total war was over.